With 2 times total points at grocery stores, your same kitchen can come with more cuisines. Sapphire Preferred from Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Hello, welcome to LA Times Talks at Sundance. I'm Tracy Brown, a reporter at the LA Times, and today we're here to talk about the film How It Ends with writer, director, producer, and actor Zoe Lister-Jones, writer, director, and producer Daryl Wine, and cast members Kaylee Spaney, Helen Hunt, and Lamar Morris. I guess first for Daryl and Zoe, how did you get from like pandemic to apocalypse? Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, the origins and inspirations for this story?
The two go together, don't they?
Yeah.
We the first 2, I don't know how many months was pretty dreary, and somehow we crawled out of that hole, so to speak, and started discussing, this idea, which was kind of born out of a lot of the feelings that we were having during the early part of the pandemic. A lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of therapy, trying to unpack what our little children were wanting and needing, which were
our inner children. We don't have children.
Yeah. Yeah, the little Daryl and little Zoe inside of us, which I don't know that we spent too much time thinking about before quarantine, but because we have so much time on our hands, we really had a lot of bases to cover. And so, yeah, I think we just started to unpack a lot of, some of the feelings that we were having around what we felt like we weren't getting in our regular lives, because suddenly there was a microscope on top of everything that we were doing and feeling because we were stuck inside. And we thought it would be fun to channel that into this kind of metaphysical comedy, which is kind of pandemic adjacent. We didn't want it to be about the pandemic, but I think a lot of people have been feeling isolated and like the world was going to end. So, why not put that into metaphysical comedy of sorts? Zoe?
Yeah. I mean, I think for both of us, we tend to channel whatever existential questions we're facing in our personal lives into our work. And I think in the pandemic, that like became so much more essential, I think, for both of us to like find some hope in a pretty bleak landscape. And I think we were both really uncertain about what the future of filmmaking was going to look like and when we would be able to be creative again. And this served as sort of a lifeline, I think, for both of us. And we wanted to extend that to our friends and our community to sort of offer a sense of play in an otherwise pretty dark time.
After watching this movie, Kaylee, I have to ask you, how much walking did you do to film this movie?
Yeah. Zoe had it harder. She was in heels, but every single day we were walking up and down. It was pretty magical to capture LA so still, and it really is sort of a love letter to LA in a way, in some ways. Got some beautiful shots. But yes, lots of walking. It was
Kaylee's walk is very distinct.
Okay, I don't know what was going on with me, but everyone, let's just pretend like it was a character choice, but I'm limping in the film 50% of the film. I don't know why. I don't know if like whatever sadness was living in me like manifested in my walk. I don't really understand, but we're just gonna go with it.
I thought it had something to do with some backstory about your Zoe's character having weird legs as a child, and over time she had crutches and learned how to walk again. Yeah,
there's a very subliminal polio storyline.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that the diagnosis is weird legs.
Yes.
Weird leg syndrome.
I was just like cursing myself for choosing those shoes from like day one forward, and cursing other people sometimes too. I was just looking, to lash out at any moment that I could. But no, I think most of the time we were just like trying to act like in the midst of like a really trying time to be performing and putting our energy into that space. So like walking and talking just generally was like a challenging task.
And Helen and Lamorne, can you both talk about how you got involved with this project? Helen, maybe can you start?
I have worked with Zoe and had seen both of the movies that Daryl and Zoe made together and loved them. And the more I live, the more I just like working with friends. And I find I've made friends. Sometimes I work and I make friends and we work together. And sometimes I see someone's work and something about it makes me feel like I feel like it's possible I'm a like-minded person. With the other job I'm doing now happened because these two guys made a movie. I love the movie. We contacted each other. So I like working, especially as I get older, in that way. And so there I was in bed in my pajamas. As I've been for 1 year. And Zoe called me and I said, sure, send it over. And I read the one scene and said, sure. And then I pitched that my character would actually be in those same pajamas. So I got in my car, I drove 5 minutes. Anywhere, I sat down. And we played our scene that was, beautifully written, I thought, and I just adore them. So it was, now working seems possible, although it's insane. I don't know how much you guys have been working, but the wrapping and the shielding, it's extreme as it should be. But this was, there was how many? 5 of us outside, far apart, getting to be creative. So it was lovely. I felt really lucky to be asked.
For me, a very similar story. I worked with Zoe on New Girl for a good amount of time. She's awesome. I've worked with Daryl. We shot something together, and I love the way he shoots, and I love the way he approaches scenes when it comes to letting me play. I have this joke that I can't read anyway. So if you give me something scripted, I will struggle with it. So they both allow the actor to kind of play, and it was a no-brainer for me. I got a call saying, hey, was it the day of or the day before? I want to say it was something. It was something like, hey, we're just going to come to your house and shoot something with you. You cool with that? Absolutely. Still thing we're working on. Let's do it. And
we didn't have many other locations. We didn't have other location opportunities, so
yes. Yes. And it worked out beautifully. It was the easiest thing. It was fun. It was very contained. It was, like you said, I want to say it wasn't even 5 people there total. And I got lucky. I got to be on my balcony for part of it. It's like, and then the most walking I had to do, so you didn't get to see my limp, was walking downstairs. I just got to walk downstairs in my own house, and I thought, this is how filmmaking should be done. This is how it should be done. So yeah,
wake up,
roll out of bed. Which I was gonna say, I did provide my own costume. And yes. I didn't see that reflected in the contract.
Yeah.
We'll amend the contract like that.
Thank you. It was a H&M t-shirt. No bottoms.
I will say that Helen and Lamorne's scenes are so different, one being very dramatic, one being very comedic. And Helen's was scripted entirely, and Lamorne's operated off of a kind of loose framework that we had just discussed beforehand, and a couple of things that we wanted to try and hit. But both you, Helen, and Lamorne, I felt were so brilliant at like Helen being so precise with the language and hitting those beats, and then Lamorne, the loose play with which you brought, your incredible energy, both suited the story so well. And I feel like is also kind of a big part of Zoe and I's work in a lot of our previous films. There's an intimacy. We love a lot of dialogue, but we also love to inject a kind of spontaneity into the story, and that kind of spirit I feel like is pervasive throughout a lot of our stuff.
What was it like to coming up with the story with knowing the outside world constraints?
Good question.
I think we constructed it like it's sort of a nice challenge in some ways. I mean, it was obviously an unfortunate challenge, but I think when the parameters within which you have to work, like it sort of lends a specificity to the process of writing. And that comes with any sort of independent filmmaking writing process, because you're always thinking about how you're going to actually get it done from a production standpoint. And this was just that sort of times 100. But there was something interesting, even in conceiving of the story, to think about, what story do we want to tell from an emotional standpoint, but from a production standpoint, like, I think that actually helped us create the narrative in a way that was kind of cool, and create sort of a world that could live all outdoors and 6 feet apart, and that could sort of like string together vignettes so that we weren't asking actors to give us, more than half a day of their time. Outside of Kaylee, who we asked a lot of.
I'm basically your child.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too far off to how we are in real life. She was my rock during the lockdown. We'd just come off of filming The Craft, so we got very close throughout that process, and I was playing a version of younger Zoe in that movie. Inspiration of that character from that movie was about Zoe's younger life in a way. And so we'd had many conversations with each other about how we grew up, and there were plenty of parallels. But yeah, during the lockdown, we were going through a lot of the same, which I think everyone was, waves of trauma and depression, and so it wasn't too hard to tap into that. Yeah, she's well, my inspiration and my guru and my therapist and my director. So I love you. It wasn't
crying, fully crying.
So you were a witch growing up? You were a witch growing up?
I was a witch. I still am. Watch out.
Daryl and Zoe, did you already have actors in mind when you were conceiving these vignettes?
Yeah, I think we did. I mean, we obviously we're very lucky to have such talented people in our lives. And like Helen and Lamorne mentioned, like we had worked together. And so I think when we were coming up with all of these characters, it was like very easy and organic to think of the people that we would be so lucky to work with and who we would also want to be seeing, because we were so isolated. So it was like, I miss Helen, I miss Lamorne, I like wanted to connect also. But I think, yeah, like Daryl mentioned, I think Helen's ability to be so agile and versatile between the worlds of comedy and drama is something that I've always admired so much in her work, and have learned so much from as an actor myself, that it just felt like she was the perfect person to play that role, and who I wanted to be able to play with, because we'd actually never acted together. I've only been directed by her. And Lamorne and I have had so much fun on New Girl, and he's such a genius improviser that it just seemed like the most fun thing to do to go to go play off him as like an angry ex-lover. But yeah, I think that was with all of the cast members. It was like that, and with Kaylee too. I mean, we wrote this very much with her in mind, and because it was sort of a mirror of a lot of the conversations that we had been having outside of filmmaking when we were on our like social distance walks, and we were talking about our inner children and how we were going to try to overcome the endless feelings of depression and despair.
Lamorne, at the end of the world, would you go out and seek closure?
No, absolutely not. Showing up at my house as is. Damn it, I'm gonna need peace. The way we cap this movie off is how I'll start this movie. Is how I'll start my movie. No, I have a plan. If the world was ending, my plan is to just go and grab all my family members, have them all in the same location, and then drink the Kool-Aid, and then we'll just do it, man. No, I don't have a real closure situation going on in my life. I think I'm pretty up to date and up to speed with everyone. I think if we're all going to go, then it's like, let's all meet at Staples Center and play some basketball or something until we die. Like that's my favorite thing to do is play basketball. So I want to die doing that.
We'll bury you at Staples Center.
That'd be great. That would be great.
I mean, God.
Don't get me wrong. There are other things that I would love to do. I'm just saying how she did.
Nope. It's just basketball. Nope. You committed.
Yeah, I definitely know that I wouldn't be playing basketball. That's the last thing that I would choose to do. I mean, you can still bury me at the Staples Center, but I'd be like at a Beyonce concert or something, at like front row. I would be Beyonce perform for me in the Staples Center by myself, and I'd be eating like a buffet while I was doing it.
Yeah. And I would also confess my love to Zoe Kravitz publicly. I've only done it via social media, and I don't think she's ever seen the message.
This might be your moment right now. Do you want to speak into camera?
Zoe, I love you, and you deserve it. And I am better until I'm not. I have my flaws. Can you get those flaws? You know what? I want out. This is not for me. I'm sorry. I love you. Come back.
Wow, that was a real journey with Travis.
Actually, Daryl, is there anything you would like to ask your cast?
Helen, since you tend to gravitate, or at least it appears that way, more to drama, but do you enjoy doing comedic roles?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good 8-year run of getting to be super, broad. And I mean, grew up on I Love Lucy, so that's where my heart is. And then, the real dream are the filmmakers who like you two, and me, hopefully, can thread the needle and see that when you're laughing, you're all out of control and moving and gooey, and then open to feeling something you don't expect to feel. So I like acting that way. I like, as an audience member, I love those movies. Jim Brooks movies made it just a giant imprint on me in every way. For that reason, because, every one of those movies is on that tightrope. So that's my favorite. And in terms of improvising, and I studied since I was 16 with Gary Austin, who started the Groundlings, and still do Sunday night, still before the world fell apart, do Sunday night shows in Hollywood, just super small.
You do?
But I do.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is very exciting new information.
Wait, what?
But the most fun on a set, you can feel, I know all of you have had this experience where everybody's improvising more than the next guy, and then the thing just blows up. And if everybody's too tight, the thing doesn't take flight. So it's like, if the writing can be solid and everybody's so alive and present that somebody can go left and everybody follows, that's when it's exciting,
And can I just say that's really difficult. What to do is what what she's saying. When you know someone from years of comedy on television, but then you also know them from years of just critically acclaimed dramatic work, it's weird. Because I'm still learning, and I'm still learning how to do both. And
me too.
obviously, you've mastered that. That's a very difficult thing to do for people who aren't actors and people who don't know how this process works. It's to be able to do both and to be as versatile as you are. That's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
And Lamorne, being such a comedic genius as you are, do you like doing comedy that's scripted and following writers, dialogue? Do you like having, just kind of a framework? What do you prefer as an actor?
It depends on who's writing it. If the writer's amazing, then I got nothing to change. I can just play within the parameters of that character. For me, I grew up in improv comedy. Second City, Chicago, UCB. That's been like the hub of my existence, and so I definitely love the play. But studying theater growing up as well, and acting is also in my background. So doing both is great. Sometimes you'll read a great comedic script where all you want to do is just jump into the character and you're okay reading it verbatim. Sometimes, I'm doing it now with multicam comedy. A lot of times you have to stick to the script, and the writers are trusted and the writers are funny. And so therefore you don't really need to improvise. But sometimes when it's loose, it's like a gold mine for an improviser, because we were going back and forth because Zoe, you're an improviser as well. And so it was easy. You set up jokes for me and then I just knock it down, and vice versa. So it all depends on who's writing, and it depends on what the script calls for. But I prefer both.
One of my favorite moments in your scene is when you start crying and Zoe says, "You're not crying." And if you remember, you broke on the day because Zoe took it so seriously.
That's my hardest part about improvising, and there are only a few actors that do that with me, is call you out on absurdity. So, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not strong enough to not break a character. I break a character constantly.
The breaking is part of the fun. I mean, I broke so many times in that scene with you.
Yeah, because I know I'm going to say something dumb, and I know at some point you're not going to just agree and move forward. You're going to call me out on it, and that makes me laugh. Yeah.
So Haley, tell us, what was it like doing comedy? Because normally your roles are very dramatic, and if I'm not mistaken, this was your first real comedy.
You guys know, I was terrified. I was so scared. I think I took an improv class, a comedic improv class, like when I first moved to LA, and it scarred me for life, and I never wanted to touch anything like that again. But I'm so glad that you guys pushed me and you encouraged me to do this, because it'll change the way that I approach, I think, everything I do afterwards. And you helped me find my play and to have fun, and there's no wrong choices and all that good stuff. And it was really good for me. And it was so incredible to watch the pros like you, Lamorne, work your magic, and Fred Armisen, and I mean the real greats, So it was incredible to soak all of that in. Yeah, thank you. Oh my God, Nick Kroll was day 2.
Nick Kroll was day 2, and Fred Armisen was day 3, and Kaylee was like, "What is happening?" Like, just being like thrown right
into the gauntlet. But she held her own. You were incredible.
All right. I think this is a good time to wrap things up. So thank you, everybody, for your time today.
We're gonna end this
by eating a cookie that is Helen Hunt's face. Kaylee and Raymond have cookies with their faces on them, and so Zoe they'll be self-destructive, and we're going to lovingly eat. And by the way, she told us to. She said, "With all the love in the world, eat me."
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Fantastic.
Oh, great.
She's delicious.
Am I good? I felt it. I felt the thrill.
Alan, you taste great.
Why, thank you.
Whoa, calm down. It's a family
Thanks,
friendly show.
everybody.